So hello to everyone. My name's Michael Quinlivan, and today I'm going to be interviewing Sam Damask from Grand Commander about his music and sort of different inspirations. So I'd like to thank him for doing that for me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it's close. It's Damask.
Damask, close
There you go.
enough.
There you go. No, I have a whole
Okay.
a whole life of people mispronouncing my last name, so it's not a problem at
Oh yeah,
all.
no,
And it's
you're
not
good.
written down anywhere, so you're doing great.
Yeah, no, you're good. I had I think like a 4 year period where there was a shop where I'd meet them weekly, and every week they call me Michael Quinlan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the first and sort of most obvious one would be like, what would be the inspiration for you doing music?
That's a good question. I started playing music around I started playing upright bass and orchestra when I was in sixth grade because my sister played cello, and her cello teacher approached me and said, "You should play bass. It's easy." And I don't know anything. I didn't care about music. I wanted to be a major league baseball player, and I took to it. And a couple of years later, I got an electric bass, and my family got MTV, and I started discovering, rock and metal and Red Hot Chili Peppers and funk and all sorts of different styles, and I just loved it. So for probably, I don't know, a huge amount of my life, it was just focused on playing bass guitar and really developing bass skills, which might be surprising if you're coming into
Yeah, I
Grand
was
Commander
thinking
stuff.
because yeah, I was about to ask like what would you sort of like place your music, because I wouldn't put it in rock or even pop. Like it's sort of quite out there. Like
Yeah. So when I got a little older and started getting into bands, I got into recording and I got into production, and I'm getting to your question. I kind of just call it indie. I don't know, because some of it's experimental, some of it's
yeah,
straight up indie rock, some of it's folky. A couple of songs, if you go back a little bit, there's some metal. Not too much, but if you listen to Bad Bad Rabbit, there's like straight up metal in Bad Bad Rabbit.
well, I've
Um,
been trying to sort of like dig through your sort of history and sort of find out what your sort of the evolution of the music is. So it's an
yeah.
interesting journey.
Well, so for a long time when I played music, I mean, for most of my life, I made instrumental music. I played funk and progressive rock and metal, and there were no vocals. I always wanted to find a vocalist to try to do like a Led Zeppelin kind of, hard rock kind of thing. And I could never find the singer that I heard in my head, some kind of perfect ideal singer that doesn't really exist. And so for years I made instrumental music. For a while I had a band called Little Brian, and we were a 10 piece, and we had, four horns and two guitars and keyboards, and just made crazy technical kind of fusion rock, metal, funk music. And then later on, I had another band that was also instrumental called Magnetite, and we were three or four piece sometimes, and we kind of made more funky, chill groove, still instrumental music. And I never really wrote songs. So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, the band I was in broke up. There was a producer I was working with that fell through, and I had a girlfriend I was, real serious about, and we broke up, and all that happened within about a month of each other. So I went from having, in working with the band in the studio, this producer, having a significant other, to all of a sudden I just had tons of free time. Just nothing, everything ended at once. And I started writing songs. I had always wanted to try to write songs and always wanted to try to sing. And I felt like I had painted myself into a corner of making kind of progressive technical music that only musicians really care about. So I said, I'm just going to try a project and just write whatever comes to my head. And that was how Grand Commander started.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and think she was the inspiration for "I Hope You Die in a Fire."
Well, I would say that maybe a component. I would say that's an amalgam of a lot of people, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely part of it.
yeah. Because in the video, I remember there's the line, "My ex is standing in front of me and we're fighting."
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So, um, do you work on the pieces with anyone? Do you like sort of bounce
Oh
ideas, or
no,
is it
no. I
just
mean,
you?
Grand Commander is about as solo as it gets. I write it. I mean, I'm proudly a bedroom producer. I write the songs, I record, I play all the instruments, the lyrics, everything. I mix it. Um, I did master with somebody else. So I Hope You Die in a Fire and all the songs up until Calm Down, I paid someone to master. But ever since Calm Down, I've been doing my own mastering too. So it's pretty much 100% solo from creation to release. My sister, she does a lot of the artwork, and I have a couple friends here, and like my friend Thomas, who plays with a band called Yours, and he's played on a couple tracks, a little guitar and Animal Attack, and he played some guitar in Fuck You, I'm Going Underground. But for the most part, it's 100% solo. Oh, and his brother Daniel, he screamed Skelly in the chorus of Skelly. So a couple friends, I'll have like pepper the tracks here and there, but yeah, for the most part, it's like from start to finish, it's just me.
But would you say you have any sort of like inspirations for music, or anyone who sort of helps you like come up, like a muse, is for lack of a better word?
I mean, I don't really think so. I feel like my muse is just life experience, things that happen to me, things that I have intense reactions to. I write songs about them. I Hope You Die in a Fire was certainly about an ex. There's probably a story behind every song. Skelly was about my friend Skelly, a painter who was kind of kicked out of the house where we were living. He went through his own breakup, so I wrote a song about him. Yeah, every song, there's a story behind it. So just really experiences happen. I have some kind of intense emotional reaction, and then like Fuck You, I'm Going Underground, a record label talked to me, and they wanted to take 80% of the money that was generated, and it just made me so mad. And I mean, I really just hung up the phone, got more mad for a couple hours, and wrote that song.
So so do you only produce through like Spotify, or how do you sort of release your music? How is your music released?
Well, I use DistroKid. So DistroKid, there's a couple of them. It's a distributor, and anybody can upload songs, and then DistroKid sends that music to Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal. I mean, there's the massive list.
Oh, is it? So it's like an open source sort of thing, is it?
I don't think open source is a word. It's a paid service, but it's open to anybody. Like you could record something on your phone and probably upload it to DistroKid and have it on Spotify within 4 or 5 days.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no. Yeah. Did you ever try work with like any sort of bigger organization, or did you always decide, no, I'm going to do this by myself?
I have never tried. I would be open to it, especially at this point, since my numbers have been higher on Spotify. And I feel like maybe I could have some leverage in working with somebody and getting a deal that's favorable. But no, over time, I had developed the skills to produce music start to finish and release stuff. And I'd also really grown tired of, trying to work with bands and trying to make it work with lots of people, especially when there's no money. So I'm open to working with other people. It's just when Grand Commander started, I would always get myself in these situations with bands. Just get so hard with different personalities. So with Grand Commander, I wanted to just build it up from the beginning by myself, and then, move forward from there. And there is a musician I play with, Daniel Bornhorst. We did a small tour right before the pandemic started, and then, everything fell apart, but he plays drums. And I think he's going to play with me live, doing some other stuff moving forward. So I'm not like 100% lone wolf, but the goal when I started was to be a lone wolf and do as much of it as I could without any outside help. And like, not to say that, I don't have people around me. Like I get opinions from my mom, my sister, and my friend Thomas, who play guitar in a couple songs. I have a small, my friend Kettner, a blues guitarist in Dallas. Like I have a circle of friends who I'll send mixes to and send songs to, and kind of, get a small group where I'll get opinions from, but that's about it.
Okay. So let me think. Yeah, what would your sort of do you have any what is musical experience do you have like before that, outside of like the orchestra stuff, or was that?
Well, let's see. I mean, I've probably been in 5 trillion bands. So once I started bass guitar, my life really just revolved around bass guitar just forever. So I played a lot of like thrash metal, Metallica. I love German thrash. I played a lot of progressive rock. I played in blues bands for a while. I love funk, Parliament Funkadelic, James Brown. I love 90s alternative, metal, 90s hip hop, modern hip hop, a lot of folk music. My mom is a folk singer, plays guitar. So, we always had guitar and she always sang growing up. My sister's an artist and, she can play music too. So I would really say it's just a big mix between kind of, my dad was obsessed with like funk and jazz and R&B and just always listened to that stuff growing up. So I would say the Grand Commander is kind of a combination of my mom playing folk music, and my sister and her performing, and all the music I kind of found on my own through just, being a kid growing up. And then eventually kind of saying, I don't care if it's technical music, I'm just going to write songs and see what happens. So put all that together, and that's kind of where Grand Commander comes from. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, it's interesting. So what would be your sort of method for making music, or how would you prepare it?
It's interesting. I feel like oftentimes I'll have a song, I'll have a lyric or a melodic idea, and it usually revolves around that. It used to be I'd write a chord progression and get a riff, get something happening. So typically I'll come up with the lyric and I'll sit with the phrase and I'll start playing some chords and try to see how melodic, because words to me sound melodic. A lot of times it feels like the words themselves dictate if a note should go up or down. And that's kind of, I feel like lyrics and poetry are different, so with lyrics, to me, the sounds can be melodic in themselves. So I spend a lot of time, once I have a line, I try to, play some chords and see melodically how the line can become music. And then once that happens, oftentimes I don't know what the song is about. It's just the line comes kind of just from my imagination or what's going on during the day or what's going on in my life. And it just starts from there. So sometimes I'll try to write a whole song on acoustic, like My Loving Hands Show You the Way. The first half of that, I wrote the whole thing in a couple hours and just recorded it on my phone, and then woke up the next day and I was like, cool, here's the song. And other songs, I'll just record a snippet. I'll say maybe I have just a verse or a line or something and just go out from there. There's not a linear way. It normally starts at the seed of a line, and sometimes it'll become a whole song on acoustic. And sometimes that seed will be recorded and I'll end up adding some synth or some bass and get some ideas musically and wind around and figure out what the song is about. And eventually the identity becomes formed through just trial and error and experimentation and, just kind of walking through the darkness, figuring things out.
Yeah, actually, that's sort of that answer. What sort of would you say is the moment where you sort of decided you want to do this for like a job?
I mean, I don't know that there was a single moment. It was more, I suddenly had time on my hands and I felt like there was a side of my musicianship that I'd never explored. Like I'd never tried singing. I never tried writing lyrics. So I don't know if there was a moment where I thought I can do this as a job. And still, like it's not, I have a job. I have a couple jobs. I don't make enough from Grand Commander to only do that. But it does, it's like I'm at the point right now, it basically pays the rent. So I think maybe when I Hope You Die in a Fire got popular, that was the first time in my life that more than just a small handful of people had ever listened to my music.
Yeah, no, because I noticed that like it's this huge bump with that song in specific. So do you have any idea why that one sort of like spoke to people, or like in comparison to any other ones that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I advertised that one.
I
think
actually, yeah, that makes sense. I think that's how I found your music to begin with. I think it was an Instagram ad or something like that. I spotted it. It's like, yeah.
I'm a big proponent of running ads. I took a course, I think it was November 2018. Because when you're a musician, whatever you're into, the algorithm will feed you things you're interested in. So I was on Facebook and I saw an ad for a company called Indiepreneur, and they had a demo where you could try their service for $1 for Black Friday. And I thought this is probably a scam. This probably is going to help because there's tons of scams. Do this, you'll get 100,000 plays on Spotify, tons of followers. So I
Oh yeah,
signed
I've
up for
seen
this
those
service.
types.
Have you seen those?
Yeah, all the time. Like
Yeah.
they seem so dodgy. Like, yeah.
Hmm. So I thought this is probably that, but it's $1 and why not? So I signed up and it wasn't that at all. It was a full, not even just course. It was almost like a school. They had all these trainings about how to use Facebook Business Manager and how to package up your music and really how to use what I got out of it, among many other things, was how to use the Facebook Business Manager. So if you're an artist and you have a normal Instagram, when I say business manager, people think about the boosting. You want to boost a post, you do $5 and
Yeah,
nothing
and
ever
5,000
happens.
people see it or whatever. Yeah,
Right. But then what happens, right? Nothing.
yeah,
But I
exactly.
got,
No interaction.
yeah, but there's a lot more to it. So when I say business manager, I mean, like, I have a business profile set up in Facebook and you can do advertising in a much more efficient way. And I didn't know that before. So I had a couple of videos where I was learning how to do it. The time I had a double neck bass and guitar combined, and I had a Nintendo controller that I was using to control synth. So, there was one neck here, and this Nintendo controller would sit on the body. And I'd played, I think it was like Mr. Roboto. I made a video playing that. I made a video playing some Zelda stuff, just doing some covers. And I was using the techniques I learned, and suddenly these videos would have 80,000 views, 100,000 views. And, I'd never had a video with more than, I don't know, 1,000 views ever. And when I Hope You Die in a Fire came out, I think I had, I don't know. Oh, it is the reason why I started promoting it, is that I was tired on my Spotify of seeing, on the Spotify for Artists is the app that artists see, so you can see all your stats. Every song said, less than 1,000. And I was so sick of seeing that. I think I had maybe 10 monthly listeners, and I wanted to make a music video for I Hope You Die in a Fire. And I met a director and we had a plot and all this stuff was supposed to happen. And it just didn't work out. We weren't on the same page. So I said, screw this. I'm going to make a video just like Grand Commander. I'm going to make music however I can. It's like, I'm here. I got my computer. I'm going to make a video. So I made the video. I use a speed reading program, which is why, all the letters
Yeah,
it's a speed reading program.
yeah.
So I kept writing, whatever. So I made the video and I used the techniques that I learned from Indiepreneur. And I remember the first night I launched the ad, I got a couple of comments like, thanks for writing a song for people with broken hearts. Like, I really appreciate this. And it just struck a chord. And it was the most wild thing because a couple of days later, my numbers on Spotify started going up. And I wasn't even advertising to send people to Spotify. I just put up a video and I boosted it using the techniques that I learned, and people were hearing it. And then I started getting comments on SoundCloud, on YouTube, everywhere. People heard the video, and then they went and they found the song. So God, I just kept that ad running, forever. And,
Yeah,
and
fair
then
enough.
suddenly it hit Discover Weekly on Spotify. And I woke up one day and I was looking at my stats. Because for a while, you wake up, every musician I know wakes up and they just look at their Spotify stats, see how they did the day before. And I was used to, I'd have 10 plays and then, maybe one day I have 15 plays. I'm like, oh, things are getting better. And after I started running the ad, then all of a sudden the song would get 40 plays and we get 100, then it would get 200. Then I woke up one day and had 1,500 plays. I said, what is going on? And I looked and it hit Discover Weekly. So the ads from Facebook led people to Spotify, and then that triggered an algorithm. And then it's just kind of been growing ever since.
So with the pandemic, were you ever planning on doing some kind of tour or like any sort of event before all that sort of came crashing down around you?
Yeah, 100%. So before the pandemic happened, I had played probably 10 gigs total as Grand Commander. I started out totally solo, and I would bring a computer that would play backing tracks, and I'd play along and play guitar and sing. And I met a drummer, Daniel Bornhorst, and he started playing with me, and we did a few shows. We did a mini tour. We went and played a couple states, and I wanted to do more of a rock band thing and not have a computer. So I remember my friend Lulio, who's in a band called After a Night of Unsettling Dreams. He was going to play guitar in my band and I was going to play bass in his band. and Daniel was going to play drums in both bands. So we were going to, if he could get a gig, we'll go do his gig. If I get a gig, he would go do my gig, that kind of thing. And I just remember January 2020, February 2020, we just had the first couple rehearsals. And I feel so innocent, like we were innocent little babes looking
down. Yeah.
I was like, okay, now all we got to do is start gigging. Like the numbers are looking good. And then it just fell apart, man. It just totally fell apart.
Yeah, no. Do you think that the pandemic like sort of helped or hindered your ability to write music?
Oh, I think it helped. I've always been kind of obsessed with gear and trying to record it at really high fidelity and make sure everything is, all the frequencies are perfect. And when the pandemic hit, I left where I was living. I went to live with my sister, and I just didn't have, I had the bare minimum amount of gear. I had just a regular mic, a computer interface, a guitar. I didn't have anything else. I had these stacks of gear for recording to make stuff sound better. And then suddenly the pandemic hit, nobody's going outside, and I don't have any of my stuff. And I remember thinking like, man, I can't work on my music. I don't have my gear. So, spend a week watching TV, that gets boring. And at the time I had finished Skelly, but I had finished recording Skelly, but I hadn't finished mixing it. And then so my mind wouldn't leave it alone. It's like, well, I don't have my gear, so how can I finish Skelly? And I thought, well, I have a laptop, so maybe the program that I use on my desktop I could use. So I download the program. I'm like, well, I don't have the song. The song's on my other computer. Then I realized, well, no, I got an online backup, backs up every night so I don't lose my files if something happens. So I get it suddenly I got the recording software and Skelly's on my backup and I can mix it. And I'm like, wow, I can finish it. Like I don't have my speakers. I don't have all the stuff that I normally have, but I can still do something. So I did it. I mixed it. I put it out and something clicked. I was like, wow, like I don't have all the crap that I thought I needed, but I have enough. And that's when I wrote Journey to Wherever We May Go. So I remember I was just spending tons of time everybody was alone during the pandemic. And I wrote Journey to Wherever We May Go, sitting, just laying on the bed in a house, in a room in my sister's house where I was staying. I mean, there was no work, there was no nothing. And yeah, I put it out and it was just shocking because, people dug that one. And it was such an eye-opening moment. I was like, I don't need all this stuff. I wrote a song with just the bare minimum, just guitar, singing a song about kind of being alone. And so I think it helped. And I mean, a lot of stuff happened during the pandemic. Like I was trying to switch careers. My dad got sick and passed away. And I mean, it was like a swirling mess of insanity, but I kept writing songs and kept putting them out and people kept feeling them. And it was kind of a transformative period where I thought when the pandemic happened that everything would just stop, and the opposite happened. Like the numbers just kept going up, and there was nothing live. There was no touring, no gigging, but the songwriting and releasing songs and interacting with people online, all of that kind of came in to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. Do you think it changed how you like write music or like how you approach it?
I don't know that it changed it, but it made me realize you can move forward in situations that aren't ideal and still make art that people relate to. It made me think of more like, instead of trying to make something good, like I just want to make something that reflects me and reflects what I'm feeling, and then hope that other people can feel that too. And I think having the experience of being completely away from my gear and having, in any other situation where I would say, I can't do this because I don't have this. I can't record this song because I don't have the right gear. Or if I only had this, then I could make this art. And I didn't have any of that. And I still made a song and still put it out, and everything still moved forward. So I think that was probably, anytime I hear myself going into a territory of excuses, I can't do this because of this, I'm like, no, like you did that song during the pandemic, like you can make this song.
Yeah, we've seen rock bottom. You can do this, like
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think you've written more now because of it? Like with things, when things sort of picked up, do you think you wrote more after that? Or do you think it's sort of, you leveled off again afterwards?
I don't know. I don't know how much the pandemic had to do with it. any more than just the natural course of evolution. The thing that made me, I always wrote quickly, but what slowed me down was just being comfortable working on vocals. Cause I mean, I'd play guitar forever, bass forever. So I was very comfortable, but doing vocals and coming up with harmonies, it was just a brand new kind of medium to explore. So a lot of the songs that I released, like Skelly, all these songs, I mean, they had been written probably by the time I released them, a bunch of them were 2, maybe 3 years old. Like I have a song Bear Factory that, I mean, that one was written at the same time all the other ones were. It was probably written 2017, and I still haven't put it out. And it's coming, by the way. So I don't know. I think over time I kind of got used to singing and recording vocals, and then slowly you figure things out. Like because I do it all myself, I used to spend so much time mixing, like so much time, and I would make tons of changes, tons of tweaks, and probably 99% of the people in the world wouldn't be able to hear it, but I could hear it. So over time, I've learned how to be less obsessive about mixing, and recording vocals has gotten a little faster. And of course, just gain more experience. And also, I still am leveling up my gear so I can hear and produce, record better, hear better when I mix, everything. So I think everything has just contributed, I would say, like a constellation of subtleties that allow things to go quicker.
Yeah, no, I get you. I'm the same kind of way. I'm really not like very technical about stuff. We had to do something last year, and I had someone else who would mix it all together, and like he was a godsend because we had to use Audition in order to put the piece together, and
Oh yeah,
I could put in a single line of audio, and that was about my
right.
end of my interaction with that like medium. So yeah, no.
Yeah, the technical, the mixing, the post-production, all of that is I wonder what it's like to write a song and record and then just I remember seeing a long time ago on MTV some pop star, I don't know who it was, but they went in and they record a song, they said, "All right, see you later." And they leave, and then this machinery, this combination of people mix it and master it and do artwork and do photos and do promotion. And I just don't have any of that. I remember even like Peter Gabriel, I saw a video of Peter Gabriel, and he was in a studio with a bunch of musicians and engineers and a conductor and orchestra, and there are these teams of people. And I just don't know what that's like. So for me, I record a song and then I mix it and put it together. And it's like, okay, let's mix, let's master, let's finish, let's release, let's do the artwork, let's do the promo, make the promo videos, the whole thing. It's, mostly one person. My sister helps, she does some of the artwork, but that's another thing that makes it go slow, and something that I would like to add some people to the team if things get to that point would just be to not have to do every single little piece myself. I would love to be able to say, okay, person who does videos, make a lyric video and set up the promo and launch it. But yeah, for as of right now, I'm the record label, I'm the video creator, mixer, songwriter, recorder, all the hats.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'd love to be able to like just do the sort of like writing element of it, and like not have to engage with any of the technical stuff, and that's like where I'd be happiest.
Yeah, what's interesting is I don't mind the technical stuff, but there always comes a point where I've had enough. So it's really fun for a certain amount of time, and then you hit that wall and you have to bust through it, and that's when it isn't fun. What I will say though is I like the sound of lo-fi music and art that was created in venues that lack perfection, especially with music and with, it's easy to relate to with Instagram filters, but with music, there's editing and there's auto tune, and there are all these different ways to make things perfect. So when I hear music and art created by people that don't have access to the tools to make things perfect, I find that I really relate to a lot of the humanity in it, because it's so easy to strip it away.
Yeah, I get you. Like, because you can get sort of quite like controlled music, which is like the absolute perfect like intonation and everything. Like, yeah. No, I get, yeah. It'd be interesting actually. are you doing any other music at the moment other than that one you mentioned that you've been working for like 4 years now?
Oh, and I haven't been working on that one continuously. It's like I'll open it up and realize I haven't looked at it for a year. Excuse me. Yeah, I always have new songs in the works. I had a song that never really fit anywhere that I probably wrote, I don't know, a year or two ago, and I revisited that one. It's kind of a metal-ish heavy rock song. That one might be coming next. I got a couple. I just always have a bunch of songs I'm working on. There's always tons of songs in various forms of development. So yeah, there's lots of stuff kind of clunking around the junkyard.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that part actually. Speaking, like, I know the music, like making the songs does, but like, do you ever have to deal with making albums? Like, is this a similar process for you, or is
I don't
that
know.
like a ball game?
For the other two bands I was in, I never even considered doing singles. I just thought you make an album and you release it. I'm considering, not even considering, I'm kind of in the process of finishing up the artwork for the album that would be called Bear Factory. And what I want to do is take many of the songs I've released previously and compile them on an album and then put out Bear Factory so people can listen to the previous songs and Bear Factory in physical form. But I've never set out to write an album for Grand Commander. And I think a lot of that is informed by Spotify and the algorithmic nature of the technology that people use to listen to music, right? Because if I put out 10 songs at once, then I will get an algorithmic push on one song. But if I put out one song a month or every couple months for 10 months, then I'll get an algorithmic push on 10 songs. So in terms of being able to have my music listened to, especially when I'm coming from the independent side without having any kind of promotional support except for what comes out of my pocket, it just makes the most sense to do as many singles as possible.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So was your sister working with you from the very beginning with all this, like doing the artwork, or?
Yeah, she did all my two previous bands that put music out. She did the artwork for. Yeah, she's always, just anytime that we have that brother sister connection, and anytime I've had I want to shout out her Instagram. I'm gonna make sure I have the right handle.
Fair enough.
Yeah, sorry, I know this is bad.
Yeah, you're good. Like, it would be better than just like yelling out the wrong Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, it's just Tara Quinn is her Instagram. TARAH Quinn, QUINN. Anytime in my whole life I've needed art, she's been able to take what I want and put it into artistic form without me giving too much direction. So a lot of the artwork that people like, she made. I made some of it, but all the stuff that's really awesome, she makes. And it's also a collaboration. She'll send me files and then I'll make my little changes and kind of get it ready to put on Spotify or, give to the distributor. But like the boat in Journey to Wherever We May Go, I remember telling her what I wanted. I was like, there's a song and there's a boat and just want to kind of feel like you're floating. And gosh, I think she drew it on on an envelope. She just sketched it real quick and she sent a picture and I was like, that's it. That's the picture. And I loved it so much. I was like, you have to take that and put it into some kind of digital file that I can use. And Reach the Moon too. One of them was on a napkin and one was on an envelope. I can't remember which is which. But she just sketched it really quick. And the cover, Reach the Moon, you're looking out on a backyard from inside a bedroom and there's a rocket and there's just, she just sketched it out. And she just has, I don't know if it's a brother sister thing or what it is, but whatever feeling I'm trying to get across the music, she always seems to be able to understand that and then draw something that reflects it.
Sorry, my fridge does that sometimes. Sorry about this. Sorry, I have no idea what was doing that. The seal is broken or something.
No, it's no problem.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So, is there any artists that you'd ever want to do collaboration with, like in future down the road?
That's a really good question because some of the people, it's just the most random combination of musicians that I really like. So I would say yes. It's funny because the first ones that popped in my head, I think, I don't know why, randomly Buckethead, Bootsy Collins, Busta Rhymes, Laura Marling. I mean, those are just, I like a lot of folk artists that I listen to, kind of indie folk, chill acoustic stuff. I like songwriters. I like guitar players. I would love to try to work with rappers and yeah, all sorts of people. I feel like in the future, now that the world has opened back up, I would love to just do some collaborations and not necessarily remixes, but I love looking at the way rappers and where'd you go?
Sorry, my fridge is being weird.
Oh, your fridge?
Yeah. I don't know if you could hear it, but the alarm was going off on it.
Oh, okay. Well, hey man, do you need to go unplug it or?
No, it's fine.
It's cool?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to work with more people and explore that. One of my goals for this year was just to be less of a lone wolf. And now that the world is opening up, I don't know what form that will take because when it comes to Grand Commander songs, I'm always very protective. Like I used to be collaborative and have bands, and then I went totally solo. So I'm not totally sure how to get back into the collaborative state of mind, but it's something that I want to explore because a lot of musicians making really interesting songs and sounds. And I think that it could be fun to explore that.
Yeah. Do you have to do short shows, or how do you manage to like sort of keep the energy up while you're doing for like a concert or whatever?
Oh, are you talking about concerts, or were you talking about collaborating?
So I meant is, well, either or, like if you were to ever do a show with someone else.
Oh, yeah. That I would love to do. Find a band that has, I don't even know if a similar sound, but I would say maybe tangential sound. And yeah, I would open up for somebody. That's definitely what I would like to do. But what was your question about the energy? What were you saying?
Yeah, like how do you, when you're doing a concert, how do you sort of manage to not sort of get exhausted like doing a show? Or do you do sort of...
I mean, it's interesting because a lot of Grand Commander songs that people listen to now didn't exist last time I played a show. A lot of the pandemic songs just have never been played live. So in a sense, I can't answer that question because I don't even know. But I mean, I've played metal bands on stage, stuff that's just the highest energy possible. And the answer to how do you not get exhausted, there's just a magic energy and a vibe that takes over and you become somebody else when you get on stage. Something happens. You see the people, you give them energy, and people who are listening, who dig the music, they give it back to you. And I don't know, it's a superhuman kind of thing that happens.
I kind of get, right when I was 2 years ago now, around Christmas, they did a talent show.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed up for that, and throughout the entire thing, my leg felt like it was going to give out. And I knew that like I had to stay up because if I fell over, I would just finish the song on the ground.
Oh, wow.
Like they come over, it's like, no, I'm fine. This is part of the plan.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so what were you doing at the talent show? What was your performance?
I do kind of bluegrassy stuff. I don't know if you know like Devil Makes Three or Maybe the Devil by chance.
Who?
Amigo the Devil or The Devil Makes Three. Yeah, no.
I know some traditional bluegrass. I know like some older bluegrass.
Oh yeah, no. These guys, they're 2001. Like they began like the 2000s ish.
But yeah, I dig bluegrass, so I don't know those bands, but you should send me some.
Oh yeah, no, I will.
So you sing? Do you play guitar too?
I do ukulele. Yeah.
Wait, you may have told me that. I can't remember if you told me that or not, but that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I used to play banjo as well, actually, but I had to stop because I tried restarting it twice, and both times within 24 hours ended up back in hospital.
Oh no! So you think there's some weird kind of
we believe that the
Darkness.
banjo was cursed, so we just like gave it to some other poor unsuspecting soul.
Okay, well, here's the question. Was it the same banjo both times?
Yeah, no. Basically, what happened was I'd take up banjo again after spending some time in hospital. I'd go to the lesson, and then I'd come out like violently ill the
Oh my
next day.
God.
Yeah, I came out after the second one. I walked out, and my mom described. She was like, "He was grey. Like it was not okay."
Well, here's another question though. Was it the same teacher? Was it the same banjo teacher?
Actually, it might have been. So that could also be
What
an
if you were,
element
yeah, what if
of
you were cursed? What if the house was cursed? What if the teacher
just
was
hating me
cursed?
specifically. Yeah, that makes sense actually.
So you would have to test it. So, okay. So to test it, first you have to get a new banjo, play the banjo by yourself without getting a lesson, see if you go to the hospital. Then, if
Yeah, and
not, take
then
that same
meet
banjo and
him.
go to the same teacher. And then if you get sick, it's either the teacher or the house. And if you don't
That's
get sick, then it was the banjo.
it sounds like a solid way to test my theory, actually. I might try that sometime. An extremely strange thing to do though, like, hi, I want to see if you're evil or not. Yeah, no, but it's a real shame because I played it when I was in sixth class. That's like 12, 13-ish. And then around third year, yeah, no, it was third year after I did my junior cert practical, which is like when you're 15-ish.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
focus was going out, so I stopped it and restarted it.
yeah. Okay, cool. So I did my practical as I was 15-ish, and literally the day after, they were doing like karaoke in the class, and I said, "Hey, could you do this one song?" And we kept looking, and there was no there's no like real bluegrass karaoke as I found out, or there's very little. So I could only find Old Number 7 by the Devil Makes Three then and try that. And I found out I could do it. I was like, damn it, I could have done that for my practical.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, but yeah, so that was part of my plan with the practical as well. I was going to do bluegrassy sort of pieces, but then obviously lockdown happened, so none of that happened. I think we were only like 2 weeks out from actually doing it then.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you were
So,
that
yeah.
close and then everything got shut
Yeah,
down?
everything fell apart. Yeah, I got out of German orals though, so swings and roundabouts.
That's really
But yeah,
wild. Is there a big bluegrass scene out in Ireland?
kind of because like American country is heavily rooted in Irish trad music.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever listen to it, you start to pick up on certain elements of it. It's usually played solo though. There's like trad bands, but that's technically not trad, as
So when
I
you say
found out.
trad, is that short for traditional?
Yeah, traditional music.
Okay.
So that's like music like the banjo, the concertina, different instruments like that. They don't, or the fiddle as well is another big one. But technically, it's meant to be a solo form because bluegrass, like you improvise a lot, but you still are stuck to the general framework of the music. Whereas in like say Irish traditional singing, you just sort of are unleashed and you have to like just sing the same words, but from there on it's kind of your own thing and it's
Oh,
like
wow.
passed down. Yeah, it's passed down by ear then.
So
Um
you kind of do both? You focus more on bluegrass?
yeah, no, bluegrass is kind of where I'm happiest, but I play ukulele then, which I
Yeah.
picked up after the Banjo of Doom was sort of patent.
Oh my God, that sounds like an album name.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah, but I've been keeping my ukulele up in my apartment. I go to Galway, so and I remember one of the nights. This would have been November-ish, I think. I just started like belting out sort of music to myself in my apartment, and then someone was like, "Guys, I need to sleep. Shut up." And then after that, we had the conversation like, "Wait, was that you, Michael?" We had that entire conversation afterwards. So I think actually the roommate in question was like down with COVID, so I was probably not his favorite
Oh,
person at the time.
that's hilarious. Well, you got to
Yeah.
send me some bluegrass and whatever. You got to send me some music to check out.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, the two bands I recommend is Amiga the Devil and Devil Makes Three. They're the new Amiga the Devil one, Born Against. I absolutely adored. I managed to include it. We had to do a poetry anthology for one
Mm-hmm.
of my assignments, and I actually managed to slip in. What's the name of it? It was the opening song of Born Against, but it actually kind of ended up completely warping the thing, because my original plan was meant to be there was like a recovery sort of song or anthology. But the issue is that because I chose that song, and that song kind of needed to go first, like it's an opening song, if you know what I mean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it meant then that eventually my mid-piece song was Blackberry Picking by, I think it's Seamus Heaney, which is like, it starts innocent and then things go downhill.
Mm-hmm.
So it instead became like this really depressing, bleak, like whole of a anthology, which
Oh, wow.
basically said hope is dead and there is no happiness.
Sounds like my kind of show.
Yeah. So I didn't get any like emails from the professor saying like, are you doing okay, man? So it's probably fine.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I remember when I released the song Life is a Nightmare, I got some messages from people saying, are you okay, man? Is everything cool? Like, this is
Yeah.
so when I see expressions like that, oftentimes I think of it as cathartic. It's, we have these deep thoughts, and everybody has, either a dark side or the kind of shadows in their lives and things that happen. So I think when you have those kind of performances, it allows us to kind of talk about that stuff that oftentimes is taboo, or things we feel like we're not allowed to
Yeah, no,
access.
yeah, music's sort of really good for that. Because again, Amiga the Devil, they've really sort of dark sort of symbols, and like they start off it's quite sort of blunt in it in a lot of ways in the earlier stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Perfect Wife is about this guy who like mutilates his wife and then gets shot by her, and there's like some really good sort of visual images. But then later on, as he sort of developed, you sort of see him get into a sort of more like, he's sort of questioning why he's making the music the way he does. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, would you say you do the same? Like, do you think more about your music now, or do you think like you find it more natural to write?
I don't really think too much. I feel like I write naturally, and oftentimes I'll figure out what the song means later. So I'll put it
Okay.
together. Yeah. And then I read, I'm like, oh, like I was feeling this. And that's why
Oh yeah,
this is
you're
where
like,
this came from.
oh, that's where my issues lie. Yeah, no, I've done that myself. Like, I'll write something and later on I'll circle back to it. It's like, yeah, no, that's making sense now, as I like
Mm-hmm.
reflect on some other thing that happened like 4 months ago.
Exactly. And then and oftentimes I'll realize what the song is about, and then I'll be able to finish it. Like life is a nightmare that never ends. I think I said that out of frustration when I was talking to a friend of mine. It just came out, that line, and I was like, oh, that could be a song. Life is a nightmare.
Do
And
ever
then and
songs
then
ever?
that informed a groove, because I was like, what? Like life is like gong go go gong gong go go gong. I was like, that's how Life is a Nightmare would start. And like I picked up a guitar, and that was the first thing I played. And if you hit play on that song, it's the first groove that happens.
Yeah, like, did any of your songs ever go through like a major change? Like, you were writing it, you realize, no, this needs to be like, you just pull apart the threads of it and rebuild it, or
Yeah, some songs do. Some come out just right, and some get written and rebuilt and discarded and changed and warped. I'm trying to think about the songs, if there are any that I can point to recently. I can't think of any offhand. I feel like I used to do it more in the past, and now I'm pulling up a list of songs because I know there's got to be one that I'm just not thinking of. Let me see. Oh yeah, like "Reach the Moon" was written and rewritten a bunch of times. Oh, an Animal Attack. That's probably, that song went through so many different changes and variations, and it was just a huge pot of experimentation that finally yielded something that I allowed to slip out of my fingers.
Was it like a process of like simplifying it or adding more to it
That
when you
one
were
was just
doing?
adding more. I mean, God, I think I ended up having 250, 300 tracks, tons of guitars, tons of basses. That was probably just a huge exercise. And if something was wrong, add more to it until it sounded cool. And out of the chaos came that song.
So
I've
did
been
it
getting
start
into
off?
doing less later, but at the time, it was all about doing more and more.
Yeah. So did it start off with that like that the chord riffs that they have at the beginning with the opening vocals, or
It
what was
started
the
off
sort
with
of?
just a groove. Like it started off with just a simple groove. Don't, don't, don't on bass. And
Yeah.
that was it. And I had a little cheesy drum beat. And I need to go find the very first version of that. And then what happened? Oh yeah, I read about a guy that told his girlfriend to shoot him. He wanted to make a video where he held a dictionary in front of his chest and he gave his girlfriend a gun and said, shoot the book and the bullet will get stuck in the book. And she did. And it went through the book and killed him on live. And
It's not funny, but like it kind of is.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a sick kind of sad humor. And it got me started thinking about the lengths people go to get attention. So that's what Animal Attack is about. Animal Attack is, it's kind of like the same thing that guy went through. Somebody thinking like, what could I do? What could I record? The most gruesome thing and put myself through some unimaginable pain to get a bunch of attention. So I just imagine somebody being first person orchestrating an animal attack where an animal would just rip them to pieces. And once I had that idea, everything kind of came together. But there's all sorts of weird sounds. There's fireworks and all sorts of crazy stuff in there. It just became a huge exercise in excess because it wasn't a song that I wrote with acoustic. That was a song that was pieced together from jamming and trying audio experiments and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, that one was rebuilt many, many times.
Do you ever release like alternate versions of your music, or do you just say this is the only version that you need to listen to?
I used to put out instrumentals so people could hear without the vocals. And I quickly realized I wouldn't say nobody cares about it, but maybe 0.01% of people care about hearing the instrumentals. Outside of that, I haven't. I've thought about it because as soon as the song comes out, often I'll hear a part. I'm like, oh, I should have done this differently. But when I hear famous bands take albums, say it came out in the 80s, and then they remix it and remaster it and make it sound modern, I never like how they sound. There's something, I don't know if sacred, but there's some kind of cohesion between the time when you wrote something, the time you created it, and all the parts that make it lesser than in your head, I feel like are part of the character that can make a song special. And if you take that for granted and try to strip it out and purify it, somehow it always seems to lose that special thing that it had, even if it technically sounds better. So I really don't. I always want to, right in the beginning, like, oh, I wish I could fix this and change this and do that. And then you have to just walk away. Because what I'd rather do is just write a new song and put the lessons I learned from the old song into the new song instead of rewriting the same song over and over.
Is there any of those songs that are like that? Like, which songs would you say are like just reconstructed versions, like alternate versions of other songs you were doing that like just grew off in their own direction?
Let me look. I think Animal Attack might be the only one. Let me see. Well, some are experiments, some are B-sides. I'm just looking through a list of all the songs, and most of them, yeah, probably Animal Attack is really the only one. The rest, because when I think about all the songs, I think about all the stuff before Grand Commander that nobody's ever heard. And back then, I'd rewrite a song and work it for years, never put it out, and just drive myself crazy until it was just this polished piece of crap that didn't have any of the vibe and character. So yeah, I feel like with Grand Commander, I just don't really do that anymore. I did do with Animal Attack, but that one, it just became a beast and became what it was. But for the most part, I don't really rewrite stuff anymore. I kind of just finish it and say, well, that's what was there at the time, put it out and move on.
Do you create music sort of slowly then as a result, or do you try and get it out quickly before it starts to turn to that state?
I mean, I would like to do it quick. The last couple songs I put out, God, like Robot Blues, that whole thing was written, recorded, mixed, finished in 2 days. And that was record time for me. I feel like I get hung up on the vocals and the mixing sometimes. So I try to go fast. I always try to go fast. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I've definitely been a victim of over mixing and overworking things and not sticking with my first instinct. But I feel like as time goes by, I slowly get better at it.
Do you ever get like noted, like someone sees you and says that's Grand Commander, or has that?
No.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? That did happen one time. I was mixing this was just a few months ago. Because I mixed bands live, and I was mixing at this place called the Truck Yard, and the guitarist, he kept kind of looking at me, and I don't know what his deal was. And I thought he had a problem with me or something. And then at the very end of the show, he comes up. He's like, "Are you Grand Commander?" I was like, "Yeah." And then we were totally cool. So that's the one time that I've been, I guess, recognized.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. Do you have any sort of like future? Like, do you have any idea where you want your music to go in terms of like style, or are you just kind of like seeing what happens with it?
Yeah, I really just, wherever my mind goes and my imagination goes is where I want to go. At this point, Grand Commander has just been a reflection of the music I'm into and the experiences that I've had. And I just wanted to move forward. Kind of found this nice middle ground where, I found sounds that I like, and I found some sounds that other people who listen to it like. So just floating in that realm, exploring and seeing what vibes and what doesn't, and just moving forward and treading that path is what I want. Lots of guitar, lots of bass. I like lots of acoustic songs that are kind of folky. And so I'll probably do a lot of stuff in that same direction, but I'm always getting new sounds, and I'll be inspired by new guitar pedals or new synthesizers. So I love sound just as much as I love music. So I'm always an explorer of sound. So I just want Grand Commander to go in the direction of fresh sounds, fresh ideas, and hopefully just reflective of, states of life that, can be vibed with, I guess. But in terms of, I don't really know. I know I'm supposed to say like I want to do more funkier, more indie folk, or more this or that, but whatever comes out is going to come out. And that's the nature of Grand Commander. What I hear, what I feel, I'm gonna make a song out of it and put it out and see what happens.
All right. I think that's kind of like a perfect sort of note to end this on. So
Okay.
like to thank you, and I hope you the best for the future.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this has been great. And thanks for all the questions and asking to do it. And it's been fantastic.
No problem. All right.